the Irish guy, and I thought Arsenal fans being insane was a thing of the past. Sure, years ago, the Gunners fan base was basically the crazies. Incredibly strange beings who used to scream into a microphone with such a velocity, you'd swear they were being possessed by Nosferatu himself. I mean, back in 2016, 2017, 2018, these Arsenal fans looked like insane creatures who just come from reading poetry to mice on the kitchen floor. They honestly looked like banana-brained hillbillies who, yes, probably thought it appropriate to sneak into graveyards and eat the flowers. Every time these North London animals would screech about Arsene Wenger, as if he himself would be found guilty of eating their children. They look crazier than that old man who lives across the road, eating bunny rabbits whilst watching Nanny McPhee in the nude. Arsenal fans were a scary bunch. I was frightened of Arsenal fans. And I thought even shaking the hand of one would be a bit like trying to pet a tiger at the zoo, or letting Pennywise the clown kiss your finger. You're most likely going to have your arm ripped off and eaten for brunch. But ever since Mikel Arteta took the wheel in 2019 and breathed stability back into the club, we no longer see Arsenal fans spoken about as if they've just escaped the loony bin and are now reading comic books aloud on the bus. No longer do we think of Arsenal fans as being the same sort of nutcases who are sitting in their most basement plotting how to kidnap a Mickey Mouse from Disneyland. No, and you know why? Because Arsenal have been winning. And now we've got prominent Arsenal fans once again calling for the manager's head. And why? Because Arsenal just got booed out of the FA Cup by 10-man Manchester United, despite utterly dominating the match. Is this where we're at now? Arteta just created a gunner side to go out there and have 26 shots at Manchester United's goal. They had tripled the number of their passes and had 71% possession to Man United's 29. To put that on-field dominance into perspective, Arsenal had more shots and possession last night than Man United had when they stuck 11 past Arsenal in 2011. Yeah, the Gunners were even more dominant than that Man United side. Just look at this as retribution for Man United losing the FA Cup final on penalties against Arsenal 19 years ago, when Fergie's boys absolutely dominated that match and arguably should have won 4-0 that afternoon. Getting turfed out of the cup at Manchester United is not a disgrace that should warrant the sacking of your coach. Get real. Like, honestly, get real. I've seen some Arsenal fans saying he should be sacked and replaced with Jose Mourinho. I love Jose Mourinho, but lads, know your club. He's a former Tottenham coach. Are you mad? Like, are you actually insane? If you want to direct your anger somewhere, then yes, have a go at Kai Havertz's arrogant penalty. I know being laid back and languid is his thing, but as well, he constantly looks like somebody just woken up from a snooze. I don't think this man is ever stressed with anything in his life. The day you see that man running for a bus is the day Deji flashes a six-pack. It ain't gonna happen. And yeah, the German tries to replicate Eden Hazard by casually rolling the ball into the net. But his execution was horrific, and yeah, Altabayender just collected it. So yeah, if you want to choke on your Rice Krispies whilst remembering that penalty, fine, go right ahead. But for all those who think Arteta should be sacked, are you mad? Does nobody remember what sort of state Arsenal were in when the Spaniard took the job in 2019? I mean, don't get it twisted. I thought it was insane when he got the job. Come on, I remember a few months earlier, he was linked to the Newcastle United job, and I didn't want him. I did not want a raw, unproven coach. Someone whose life's mission up until that point was to fetch Pep his morning coffee and get him Skittles from the vending machine and maybe hand him toilet paper when he's on the loo. I did not want this expert in handing out bibs, replacing a European serial winner and tactical genius like Rafa Benitez. And I actually remember feeling slightly more safer with a far more experienced Steve Bruce. You know, the guy probably had chocolate muffins hidden in every bathroom at the club. Still to this day, I just know he's got an emergency jumbo sausage roll hidden in the ceiling of the manager's office, so go on, Eddie. If ever you forget to bring your packed lunch to work, just go rooting around in there. There's probably a few squash mini rolls sellotaped to the back of the radiator. But yeah, lads, Everton have always made it a habit of fighting with other clubs when they need a new manager. They only seem to sack the manager the same week another Premier League club sacks theirs. It's like they're too scared to do it on their own. And yeah, last week we had both them and West Ham squabbling over which one gets Graham Potter. And I remember back in 2017, those exact same clubs were fighting for the signature of David Moyes. And in 2019, it seemed so odd that ex-Toffee Arteta was taking the Arsenal job, whilst Everton were snapping up actual Carlo Ancelotti. That looked bonkers to the extreme. Like, incredibly weird. You had Arsenal Football Club passing up the opportunity to appoint a multiple European champion, one of the most decorated men in football, to take a punt on this miniature Spanish meerkat. It's like both these clubs had their minds mixed up, because Everton seemed the far more likely to take a punt and a risk on an ex-player, right? I mean, Christ, about 2 years later, they were offering a job interview to Wayne Rooney. I mean, the fact he said no and chose to stay at Derby County, I'm sorry, but for an adult man who's confessed to wearing Everton pajamas, I'm guessing that rejection is going to haunt him until his final days. I bet he'll get buried with 4 pepperoni pizzas in his coffin, just in case his zombie gets hungry. So yeah, to see Arsenal replace Unai Emery with him, it looked wild, crazy. I mean, come on, a few months earlier, the man was on the same Newcastle United shortlist as Sam Allardyce and Steve Bruce. Imagine being squeezed in between those 20 blokes at the job interview. It'd be like taking a middle seat on an airplane in between the world's fattest twins. So yeah, to see him get the Arsenal job, it looked like a total disaster. Another Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, to be fair, it is kind of nuts to see who Sky Sports had as the 10 candidates for the Gunners job when Emery was binned. Let's just see where they are now, shall we? The guy's back for the Arsenal job in 2019, and you can tell me which of these would have done a better job. Nuno Espirito Santo. Look, he's doing a great job at Nottingham Forest, but lads, he was also sacked after 3 months at Spurs. Freddie Ljungberg is now unemployed, eating Frosties in his underpants. Mauricio Pochettino, sacked by PSG, sacked by Chelsea, and is now the manager of the USA. Rafa Benitez, sacked by Everton and Celta Vigo. Max Allegri, at the time he was arguably seen as one of the best managers in the world, but now he still has not managed anyone other than Juventus since 2014. Patrick Vieira, since sacked by Nice, Crystal Palace and Strasbourg. Brendan Rodgers is now back at Celtic after getting the chop at Leicester. Steven Gerrard, currently managing for the 400 fans on a weekly basis after being sacked by Aston Villa for the guy that Arsenal sacked in 2019. And finally, Eddie Howe, doing brilliantly at Newcastle. And you know what? Would have been an excellent pick as Arsenal boss. And he's the only one who'd have equaled Arteta's job. So that was a collection of mostly joke picks. Most in that bunch would have been disaster clowns at the Emirates, but Arteta, he has been insanely good and is probably the biggest surprise success story I have ever seen in Premier League management. Arsenal fans are moaning because they've only won one trophy in 5 years. As if this club has some divine right to win one. Don't forget Arsene Wenger, the greatest manager in the history of your club. He went 9. Count them, 9 years without a piece of silverware. And even then, he needed extra time to beat Hull City in the FA Cup final. People are complaining because Gunners are only second in the league. I'm sorry, but this is your third title race in a row. Do you know when the last time Arsenal were in a title race that went beyond February? None since you won the thing in 2004. The only other 2 title hunts were in 2008 and 2014, when the Gunners choked both times in the spring. Crazy, you go to Liverpool, top of the league, and find yourselves 4-0 down after 20 minutes. You have to spend over an hour terrified that Liverpool's gargoyle centre-back is gonna score a hat-trick. Yeah, that was embarrassing. And then a few weeks later, you were losing 6-0 at Chelsea in Wenger's 1000th game. Even Mo Salah scored. That little Egyptian dweeb. And lads, that wasn't even the first time that season the Gunners had conceded 6 in a single match. And that was supposed to be a title contending team? Arsenal were an embarrassment before Arteta. Forget about title races. Forget about competing for anything. He inherited a joke of a team. A bunch of players with awful attitudes. Don't forget just how brutal Arsenal were at the end of 2019. Let me paint a picture for you, okay? Between a week before Halloween until the week of Valentine's Day, Arsenal played 17 league games and won 2, beating West Ham and Manchester United. That was it. The final match of that run, a 0-0 draw at Burnley, saw Arteta complaining because the grass wasn't wet. Yeah, he looked like a managerial gerbil and the Gunners looked hopeless. The fact he's managed to turn the club into a winning machine that has stood up to Manchester City, the greatest team in the history of English football, in not 1 but 2 consecutive title races, it's a miracle. I don't think people remember just how grisly and terrible Arsenal used to be. Go back to the Christmas of 2020 then. Okay, 2 wins in 12 matches. Again, weirdly, 50% of the victories were again against Man United. But yeah, look, 8 defeats in 12 games. Arteta was incredibly lucky not to lose his job, and I'll hold my hands up. I thought he was garbage, but the single most important result in the Gunners' recent history was Arteta outwitting a future Coventry coach, putting off a surprise win against Chelsea the day after Christmas. And they haven't really looked back since. Okay, it was a bit of a wobble the next season, but they still finished 5th and then 2nd in a row twice. The job he has done at Arsenal is epic. I mean, come on, just look at the first half of the 22-23 season. 16 wins from the first 19 games. That is unbelievable. Or how about the second half of last season? 16 wins from the final 18 games. How about 4 consecutive matches in February of last year where they banked in 21 goals? And people want to say they're a mini Stoke? Lads, this is his first ever managerial job. Who does this in their first ever job in management? He's breaking all the rules. Nobody does this. No one. And now people are saying less than a year later, from that blistering world-class form, that they want him sacked. Are you having a laugh? This is absolute donut juice. It's frankly embarrassing. The job this man has done is incredible. Arsenal have absolutely no right to be in these sorts of title races because they were a complete clown show before he took the wheel. I mean, lads, who do you expect is going to come in and win more from these players than him? Even as we're speaking, Arsenal have only lost 2 Premier League matches this season. You want to talk about no trophies? No trophies. The greatest Arsenal team of all time is the one that won the league unbeaten in 2004, right? Yeah. Arsenal collected just 1 point fewer than that team last season. Let's get things right. If Ruud van Nistelrooy had scored his penalty in September 2003, there would be no Invincibles, and they'd have won that league with 89 points. Exactly what Arteta got last season. One Manchester United missed penalty separates these teams, and you know what's a cute little fact? If Pep Guardiola's Man City had somehow existed in those years, and it didn't matter the Gunners didn't lose a match, they still would not have won the league with 90 points. Doesn't that just tell you what a frightening era Arteta has had to compete in? When a literal team of Invincibles still would not have pipped Pep to the prize, 89 points should be enough to get you a league title. Arteta did enough. He's just unlucky to be existing in an era where Guardiola has been a complete and utter freak. And even then, even this whole era of Man City success could still be proven by a judge to be faker than a Logan Paul fight. Over the last 2 seasons, Arteta has put 173 points on the board. When was the last time Arsenal put that many points together over 2 seasons? Anyone? Oh yeah. 2004 and 2005. 173 points then as well. Was anyone screaming for Wenger's head then? After finishing second at Chelsea on 83 points in 2005? I hope not, otherwise yeah, they've clearly got the intelligence of a chipmunk. I mean, wow, can you imagine any spoiled Arsenal fan in the summer of 2005 begging their club to replace Wenger with that summer's flavour of the month? Like Alan Pardew or Paul Jewell? I'm sorry, I know this feels like an itty bitty rant, but I just think it's lunacy for some Arsenal fans to want Arteta out. It just feels wrong. Show this man respect. And this is coming from someone who did multiple videos saying how terrible this man was as a manager. I was wrong. Very, very wrong. Probably the most wrong I've ever been about a Premier League boss. Because Arteta is a brilliant coach. To run him out of town now is insane. I mean, the word on the street is that the Gunners want Simone Inzaghi. Bringing in a tactically superb defensive manager with 0 Premier League experience. Isn't that exactly what you did when you replaced Wenger with Emery? And that didn't work. Sacking Arteta, I'm sorry, this feels like a terrible episode of the Looney Tunes. It's literally mental. Sacking Arteta would be utterly crazy. Anyway, that's the interview. What do you think? All right, let me know, Arsenal fans. What do you think? Am I talking? Should he go? Let me know in the comment section below. Surely not. Anyway, listen, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click, share, as always. I'll talk to you in a while.